Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being there for the session Future of User Experience. I will wait just 1 minute just to be sure nobody else wants to come now. I think it's okay. We'll talk about interfaces, innovation, and experience. And I hope this session will be a good experience for you. First, it's me. I'm an innovative interface expert at Octo Technology. I'm a Kinect MVP, so it's an award from Microsoft. Here is my Twitter and my email address if you have some question. And you can find my Twitter also on the flyer. And you, who are you? I guess you are software developer, software craftsmanship, technical leader, or even a software designer or coach. Am I true? Is there any software developer here? Ooh, everyone. Technical leader, tech lead? Okay. So you know me, I know a bit of you. There is kind of two worlds. There is my world and your world, and I'm here to transmit something, a knowledge, and some information. And I want this information to come from my mind to yours. The best way to do it is telepathy. Sadly, it was not available on the market. Not yet. So we'll do with what we have. We have our fifth senses. It's not common to use all the senses at the same time. So I will try my best to transmit my knowledge to you using this interface. So there is what I'm thinking. There is what you will understand. But in the middle, there is how I will say it, how I will behave, what will be my movement, and how you will perceive all this, and how you will interpret it. It's a lot of barrier between my mind and your mind. And what we have to do is try to remove all this to be sure that the information is transmitted correctly to you. And we have something in computer science or computing. There is a digital world, the world of the computer, with his own user interface, with the data. There is a human world that we can call analog world, to the opposite of a digital world. And in the middle, a lot of interfaces. Touchscreen, mouse, keyboard, printer. Printer was one of the first interface for the knowledge to be transmitted to someone. It was a paper. Printer, paper, the same thing, let's say. But interfaces, it's interface. It's what is in the middle between two worlds. And as long as there is interfaces, the world will be separated. So, as I said, we will have to try to remove this interface. A bit of history. First interface, let's say, command line interface. It's what you are using. When you are developing a software, you are using command line, or at least development environment that allow you to type command. There is a Windows icon menu pointer, or you can say GUI, graphic user interface. There is a touchscreen now, popularized by Apple and its iPhone. And the gesture. Some camera can detect the movement without touching the screen. And there is a lot of another sensors that you can wear, the wearable, that can help the computer and the digital world to know what you want, or to know at least what you will do, and to transmit information using this. Let's try something. If I want to display a circle here, what will be the most efficient way to display a circle between all these four choices? You can say it out loud. Gesture, touch. Depends of what we want. Do we want a perfect circle or something like a circle? If we use a command line, I will say, draw circle. I will give the coordinate, the diameter, and the color in hexadecimal. So I will have exactly the circle that I want. It was quite quick to do it, very efficient. It took me 10 seconds to say it, but it took me maybe 5 years to learn it. So it's efficient, but you need a lot of learning to do it. The Windows icon menu pointer, quite easy. I won't say my father or my grandmother will be able to use a computer to display a circle. You will have to open the right application to select in the palette. Touch, quite easy. Anyone can take an iPad, even my kid, a 3-year-old kid, can open the right application and draw something that looks like a circle. And here with gesture, I can try to do something like this. I have a circle. Oh, I cheat, so it's perfect circle, but it's the color that I want because I say it out loud, but maybe it's not the right red. Maybe I want a darker red or lighter red, and it's almost there. My finger is quite large, so I won't have the perfect circle. So we went from something very precise to something very easy to use. And it's a balance. You can't have something with high precision and very easy to use. You have to choose. And when you do a software, it's what you are doing. You are choosing, oh, I will make a very easy interface. But sometimes it's easy to use, but and anyone can use it, but it won't be as efficient as someone that learned it for a long time. In the previous session, the speaker said, I want to learn the keyboard, the shortcut on my development environment to be more efficient. You have to learn to be more efficient. If it's just using Visual Basic and doing some click, 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 you can do it. You are not as efficient as someone that knows the pure technical side of the software. So what we gain in natural interaction, we lose it in precision. It's not bad. We go from someone like a Jedi that knows everything to someone like a Padawan that knows something, but he still wants to use it. And in our everyday life, us and our user are in this case. They don't want to learn software. They don't want to learn how to use this website to make it work. No, they want to use a website, and the website has to be easy to use. And you have to create an easy-to-use interface. Expert novice. So we have to develop natural user interface. This means no learning curve, or very short learning curve at least. And the user has to be in control of the interface. He doesn't have to suffer when he's using it. We are not slave of the machine. We are human, so we want to control what we have in front of us. All this to give a positive user experience. And as I said, we want no interface, or at least to make the interface disappear, so you feel like it's normal. If I have to focus on, oh, I have to use my mouse this way, the keyboard this way, the screen this way, you are thinking about the interface and not about the objects that you want to manipulate. So let's get rid of the interface, which is in the digital part, and try to do something without interface. Without interface, we can try to enter in the digital world. So here you break the screen and maybe your face, so it's not the right solution. You can maybe wear an helmet or a headset that make you enter in the digital world, but it's a heavy device. But once you get used to it, it becomes natural. But you have to learn it and not vomit in the headset. To create this immersive user experience for a customer of us, PMU and Lotro, we film a movie at a 360 degree, and we put it in a helmet, Oculus Rift. And we also do 3D audio, so when the user is moving his head, the sound is moving also. So he can look at the horse and hear the sound of the horse. He can look at the back of another sound. Here, she's in the experience. She liked it, and we told her, hey, you can turn your head and see that there is other opponent on the back, so she can turn and look everywhere. Oh, yes. Very immersive experience. There is a device, but it was very easy. It's just eyes, audio, and instead of giving her a joystick or a keyboard to control the interface, just use her hand and the movement of the head. Very easy. The interface was almost invisible for her because she was in the interface using the helmet. Or the other way will be to bring the user interface in the real world. Previously, it was us going in the digital world. Here, it's the interface going here. It's not very easy to use because usually we are stuck with our screen and nothing can go outside of the screen. Let's try something. If I want to buy something in IKEA, my first interface will be this. I will try to find the right place. Okay, it's 74 centimeters, this height. Then second interface, the post-it note, where I will write the measurement. Then I will go on the website, first on my computer. I open the web browser and go on the website. I try to search by measure. We can't search by measure. I don't speak Finnish, so I don't search for the Glungsten model. Well, I will find a model. Maybe it's okay. I will go to the shop. I will measure again. Oh, the furniture is maybe 1 centimeter bigger than I expected. Can I afford this? Oh, I will go back home and check again. It's a real experience, but maybe not a good experience. You would get a nice video. In French, but I was making the demo in English previously. Imagine we are in your living room. You want a cupboard in the right place. You will have just to go in the place, ask your wife to hold the tablet, and film you, and you say, I want a cupboard from here to there. You get the measure, but you don't care. You are human. You don't want to talk in centimeter. You give the height that you want because you want to be aligned with this, and you say, search for me. And you get a lot of models that are matching the size. Or maybe you want to try something a bit bigger, or you want to move it. I want something bigger in my house. Search for me, and I get a bigger cupboard. And I could even say, oh, adjust the color based on this other cupboard, so I will have kind of the same model. Here, the interface was what? Was the real world. I want a cupboard here, exactly here. Centimeter, I don't care. Going on the website, I don't care. I just want someone that holds the iPad that has a 3D camera in front of me so I can do the movement. And maybe in the future, there will be a kind of ambient computer with a projector and camera everywhere. So I will have just to say, IKEA, I want a cupboard here, please. And it will find it for me. So you give the measure, okay, some command, and you get exactly the furniture that you want. And now we say, hey, it's okay, I want this in my home. You can upload if you like this. So it's kind of innovative. And if you want to do some innovation, so there's three ways to do it. Either it's research and development, just a proof of concept. I will try something. I heard about a framework. Or Twitter Bootstrap, I will try it. It's okay, it's working. Or another something that you want to use, but you don't go to the production with this. Or you use it just to make the buzz because it's trendy. Oh, everyone is using a hamburger menu on the side. I want it. Everyone is using it. I like it. You implement a technology or something in the user interface, in the user experience, because it's nice to have it. Is it relevant? We don't know. I had a customer that asked me, oh, Vincent, I want a new conference room that allow people to change slide just by doing this movement. Oh, it's possible using Kinect, you can do this. And even if you target like this, we'll have a virtual laser pointer appearing following your finger. You say, I want it. So I just ask for a confirmation. So you want a computer, at least 10 days of development, a computer running at 100% of CPU all the time to detect all gesture, and some speakers that don't know what are the right movement, or if they are Italian, they are talking with their hand always. So the slide will go crazy. All this to replace just a $20 or €20 remote control. I'm waiting for his call. Maybe we'll do the project, maybe not, but I'm not sure. Because it was not relevant. Relevant is it appropriate to implement this, to pay the cost of this technology for the user? The relevance for the user is, does this technology, this interface, solve a problem? maybe he can't do something, but with this technology, he will be able to do it. It will fulfill his need. It's the useful part of the innovation. But also, maybe he can already do something like buying a furniture in IKEA. I can do it, but maybe with the technology, I will be able to do it faster, quicker, simpler, easier. This will be the helpful part of the technology. And then, will this technology make me happy? Because maybe if I can buy a furniture from my home, but I have to repeat 10 times the same voice command to make it work, I won't be happy. I will even say to my friend, don't use it, it's shit. It's not working well. It's working well, but you have to learn the command. So the interface won't be appealing. There will be no pleasure to use it. And the user won't be engaged in the experience. If you want a good user experience, you have to follow all these three steps, three sides. You will get a happy user. If he's happy, he will be involved in the project, in the product. If he's involved, maybe he will give you feedback. And with this feedback, maybe he will help you to make a better product. And he will be happier. And if he's happy, he will talk to all the friends and all the colleagues saying, I used this software today. It was very good software. I was doing exactly what I want, the way I want. So it's okay. But usually a user prefers to say it's not working than it's working. So you have to be sure that it's more working than not working. Another side of the technology and the user experience is to try to turn information into communication. What's the difference between information and communication? Let's take a sample. Maybe for in your company or one of your customers, there is in the hallway a big screen showing some information, the stock market or the news about the company. It's just information. It's one way. Communication is two ways. How to make this big screen in two ways? Maybe if the screen is displaying, oh, we are organizing a charity event with all the kids of the company, please go on the portal, internet portal, intranet, to subscribe and go to the event. I'm sure that if I'm seeing this screen, 5 minutes later, I will forget to subscribe on the intranet. But if I'm in front of the screen and I can just pull my card or just say my name and say, oh, I have 2 kids, one 3-year-old and 5-year-old, it's okay. This screen has been turned from information to communication. It has been interactive. And if it's interactive, it's okay. It's working directly as expected, and you are not multiplying the interface. The screen and my computer and the intranet. It can be useful for interactive display, for digital signage. Maybe in a museum, you have an interactive screen, you can get more information. Maybe the screen will recognize you and give you an advice for the best visit in the museum. It will recognize that you have some kids and will tell you, oh, there is a special room for kids in the museum for advertising. Maybe in the shop window, when the shop is closed, you can access to the catalog. Usually when the shop is closed, you get a big window, no light, you see some product at night, it's not interactive. If I could just see better the product and maybe say, pre-order, I want it, and I will take it tomorrow morning, first hour, it would be nice. So to create more immersive experience, we have to make all our senses stimulated. This will create an immersive experience. Yes? So eyes are working very well. We are using everywhere. We can put a helmet and see 3D information with something as cheap as this. This is a Google Cardboard. You just put your phone here, and in front of you, and you see something in 3D. You can live a virtual reality experience. And more than virtual, you can have augmented reality because the camera can see also the real world. So eyes are already fulfilled with information, but if your eyes are busy by the current activity, you can't use it because you are blind or bad eyesight, you may use your hearing as a user interface. So it can be a feedback like the small notification you get when your phone, you receive an email or whatever. If there is not a good visibility, if you have visually distracted, as I said, maybe I'm on the road driving, and I still want some information. That's why the GPS is audio when you're driving, so you don't have to look at the screen in theory. And there is something called directional speaker or audio spotlight. It can be used in some shop. This will send audio information just in this range. So if I am in a shop, maybe I will have a personal advisor that gives me some information saying, oh, Vincent, don't buy this product, it's not good for you. Maybe it has gluten and you are allergic. And if I'm walking, I will go from one audio spotlight to another and leave a personalized user experience along my shopping journey. It can be also to create some atmosphere. I'm in a travel agency, and there is a lot of people, but I want to hear some specific information about the advertisement that I'm looking at. It can be nice to create this personalized and immersive user experience. Touch, we are using almost every time. With our phone, we are touching. But what about the feedback? Yes, when I press the home button of my phone, yes, there is a kind of vibration. It's called haptic feedback. And you can now have multiple haptic feedback. On the Apple iWatch, you can have a haptic feedback for notification. And if it's your wife that is calling you, there is a small vibration. If it's an SMS from your boss, it will be a hard vibration. You can choose the kind of vibration you want. So the haptic feedback can transmit a lot of various information. It's not used a lot now, unless except by Apple, but it's coming to the world to use this kind of interaction. And also, touch can perceive shape, texture, and temperature. So maybe in the future, the phone will be very soft to touch when you are in a simple application. Maybe in some other application, it will be hard to press a button because it's a confirmation. Maybe you are transmitting money from one account to another, and the button, you will have to push it hard, or it will be a bit difficult to use it, but on purpose to make it more immersive and transmit some information about what you are doing to your finger. For gaming purpose, but also the military, have developed this kind of vest. This is a haptic vest or tactile vest. This has a lot of small motor. You wear it, and you get more information. Imagine I'm on the battlefield with my weapon, and I will feel something on the back. It means that maybe there is a bad guy coming from the back, because everything will be connected to some radar and satellite vision. So I will get more information without looking. If one of my friends is hurt, maybe I will feel his pain, a bit of his pain, and I will know that I will have to go this way. If I feel something on the back, maybe I will have to retreat. And for the weapon, the opponent that is trying to kill me, it's kind of a Spider-Man sense. I will sense something without thinking about it. It will be a kind of ambient sensing. And I said, Apple Watch. It could be nice, but it's a big interface that you have to wear. But because the watch already transmits information, my smart band is giving me information when I'm achieving a goal. Oh, you walk 200 meters, yeah, you achieve a goal. So there is a vibration, there is information coming to us every day, and you can have more information because our tactile sense is not used enough, I think. So maybe tomorrow you will transmit information through the mouse. Or you will make the mouse vibrate, or the mouse become hot or cold based on the interaction of the user. We can imagine a lot of ways to make it more immersive. Smell is another sense. It's not used a lot. Maybe the most place it's used is in the boulangerie. When you go in front of the boulangerie, there is this nice smell of pain au chocolat or whatever. It's not coming from the kitchen. It's coming from a olfactive generator. There is some perfume. And you feel that, oh, it's okay, I want a pain au chocolat. But pain au chocolat is from the freezer. But you can create a kind of a mood manipulation. If I am in a travel agency and I'm looking at a Bahamas flyer, maybe I will want to feel to smell the smell of the sand and the heat of the temperature and the smell of the water or whatever. We can imagine a better immersion using smell. There is a kind of inconvenience is from the moment you get a smell in the nose, it doesn't leave you for at least 10 seconds. So you can't create very quick feedback using smell. My computer won't give me a smell feedback when I get a notification, because the notification will stay in my head for at least 10 seconds, and then maybe I will get a headache. So, but it's nice for long experience, immersive experience, and experience related to the mood. Immersive experience. All this can be used maybe for interactive point of sale. Amana, it's the equivalent of IKEA in the US. They create this kind of point of sale, so showroom, where every object is tactile. It's using a Kinect to detect what you are touching. But if I'm touching the fridge, I will get on the screen some information about the fridge, about its capacity, about the various color model or whatever. If I touch the oven, I will get the energetical information and the heat. And if I'm changing from one showroom to another, it will detect it and tell me, oh, in the previous showroom you asked for the red color, I will show you some red product from the first time. So you get interactive everything. Everything will become interactive. I will touch a wall, it will become interactive. I touch a table, it will become interactive. There is some experiment to make the floor interactive, mainly for marketing purpose, for gaming, for just playground. So here, when the kid is walking, there is some various musical notes that are played based on his movement. Here also you can select some product for cars, I think, and you get more information. You can make just a big screen interactive. I said a shop window previously, and I get the catalog. And maybe using augmented reality, I could wear something that I'm not used to wear. Here it's just augmented reality. I will try to make it work again. If it's not working, it means that the Kinect is broken. What was the name? We'll see. In the meantime, I will talk. So this is my computer. Imagine I'm in La Grande Récré, and I'm a kid, and I saw Iron Man figurine. I show it to the display, and I say, I want to be Iron Man. And I can be Iron Man in front of the screen. And if I want to do some laser stuff, it's working. And if you do this in La Grande Récré, there will be a long queue of kids and parents waiting for just to try this. And not just the kids, the parents are also in the queue to try it. It's me. So here it's marketing. I won't buy a product using this kind of interactive screen, but while I'm in the queue, I'm immersed in the experience of the brand experience, of the shop experience, and this will remove the barrier between me and the shop. At least reduce the barrier, because I will be more happy to go there. So this means the Kinect is not broken, so I will try to make IKEA work again. A lot of use cases for education or for training. All these sensors can detect what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. So maybe if I'm doing it wrong, maybe if I'm a technical operator and I want to repair some hardware, if I'm not doing the right movement, maybe the computer can tell me, or maybe my watch can vibrate telling me, oh, you are touching something that is very dangerous, don't forget to turn off the power, or you have to turn your arm like this to grip something. In healthcare, maybe for sanitary reason, I don't have to touch object. Maybe because I'm sick, because I'm working with sick people. So maybe just at distance, I will be able to interact with the interface. Small sample. There was an hospital that tried to use Kinect in the operation room, so the doctor can see some magnetic resonance imagery using his movement. During the operation, he can just wave like this and see picture of the patient in ARM. The problem is they do very wide movements, so they send some blood on the screen. But the idea was there, and the doctor was able to operate and access digital information without any interference. For retail, as I said, in industry, for security, and even art. There is a lot of new artists using new technology to make interactive art piece. It can be a fake painting that is changing based on my movement. It can be a collaborative orchestra. Everyone with your phone, you will be able to contribute to music. A lot of use cases possible to make more immersive and better experience for the user. Responsive design. Does everyone know what is responsive design? Yes? I will just try to summarize in few words. It's adjusting the layout based on the surface of the screen. So I have some content that act like water. And the water takes the shape of the object, of the container. Takes the shape of the container. It's okay. The content adapts to the screen. But it's very simple. Maybe, as a consumer, I want to use my water like this. With a spoon, with a... I don't know what is the English name for this. But there is multiple ways to consume information. And just adjusting the text with the size of the screen is not enough. We should try to do something like user-responsive design or adaptive design, so the interface will adapt based on me. For example, if I have some motricity issue, I can't use my arm on my tablet because I had an accident. So maybe all the menus should be moved to the left to be optimal for me. Or maybe I have a bad eyesight and I want all the text to be bigger. I don't want the red color to appear on my screen because I have some issue with my eyes. Maybe my behavior also should be used to adapt the user interface. I'm here. If I'm going back, maybe I want the text to be bigger. And even with sensor, we can imagine that the computer will be able to sense our emotion, a kind of affective interface. I'm in front of my computer. My mouse can detect my temperature. My watch detects my heartbeat. All this say, oh, I'm stressed. And even the camera will detect that I'm frowning and maybe I'm sweating. So I'm in a very bad position. And what I'm doing, I'm sending an email to my big boss. The computer could easily say, don't send the email now. Just have a coffee, or better a tea, to chill out, and then you will send your email. But all the information is there. We already, not every one of us, but we're wearing some smart band or smart object, and it's not expensive to have a better sensor in our everyday life to make the computer smarter. What we need now is just software developers that use all this sensor to make a better experience. In the past, I've done this demo, but it's not working anymore because Facebook has changed its CSS page style. Here, I'm in front of my computer, looking at Facebook. It's not very... I don't need to be concentrated when I'm doing Facebook. I want maybe to lie back, and the text will be a bit bigger, the menu will leave, and if I lying back a bit more, it will be really bigger. It's a bit like this. Here, this text will adjust based on my movement. Oh, I'm out of the... If I close, the text is small. If I'm going back, the text is going bigger. And following me, So it's almost perfect. I can read it from any position because the perspective is adjusting. So we can create this kind of a user-responsive, I like this term, user-responsive design. Microsoft is using adaptive design, or in the new Windows 10, there will be some adaptive trigger to adjust the layout based on the screen, based on the other device, other characteristic of the device. But we can go more in this. A lot of sensor. There is some glass that are sensing what I'm drinking, if I'm drinking too fast or not. Even the fork can detect if I'm eating too fast. There is some plate detecting if I'm putting too much food in my plate, and even analyzing the calorie and the element inside the food. There is some diaper that are sending a tweet when my kid is doing filling the diaper. Some toothbrush that are detecting that I'm brushing too fast or too slow or not enough or not in the back enough. And I think it's Oral-B that are doing this. And you can also do a contest with your family to say, oh, I'm brushing better than you. And you get online information with a comparison. There is also some kid bottle saying, oh, your kid is drinking too fast or not. And on you, I think it's Forrester that said that in 2 or 3 years, people will wear at least 20 connected devices on them. Maybe the socks will be connected because it will detect that I'm walking too fast or too slow, or that I'm sweating and there is some problem with my feet. My seat belt, belt will detect that I'm too fat or eating too much, and will adjust automatically or send me some information. My wristband, my ring, I will maybe use it as a remote control. Oh, volume up, volume down, just by moving my finger on my ring. It already exists. There was 2 Kickstarter products based on ring as a remote control device. There is some nice objects, jewelry, that are connected and saying, oh, you are not holding your back straight enough. If I'm doing this, the jewelry will vibrate to teach me how to behave and how to be straight, so I won't have any back pain. A necklace maybe that will detect the sunlight and telling me, oh, you are too exposed to the sun, go back in the dark, or put some cream. Everything can be connected. All this to make this is more intrusive than immersive, but we can have a lot of device, and with the cloud and IoT, all these objects will be able to communicate. So they will be able to provide, when I say they will be able, someone, maybe a service provider, will be able to provide better customer service by analyzing all this data and telling me, oh, you are eating too fast, you are not brushing your teeth, you are drinking alcohol, or you are giving alcohol to your kid. Maybe we should increase the price of your insurance. Or maybe because I'm doing a lot of sport and all the objects are telling the insurance company that I'm doing sport, they will reduce the price of the insurance. We can imagine everything based on the information of this connected device. So there is our reality, but there is this virtual reality or alternate reality. But virtual reality it's another world. It's okay, we can see abstract stuff. But what can be nice is when you merge this virtual reality as our reality, it's augmented reality. So as I said, Google Cardboard, Oculus that has been bought by Facebook, so this helmet for 3D vision, HoloLens. Who doesn't know what is HoloLens? Okay. Microsoft didn't release the product yet, but announced it. It's a product. I will try to find a picture. It's a helmet that makes every surface around you interactive. You can grab a window and say, oh, I want this video to be played here. So with this helmet, I can see the reality, and as an overlay on this reality, I will have digital information, a video playing, maybe a robot walking in front of me, maybe the meteo resting on the table, maybe an email notification that is following me everywhere. This is nice in the theory. I'm not sure that everyone will wear this kind of helmet. But for professional purpose, we can imagine interacting with objects that are not there yet, and we can build something just by the movement and see it in 3D, and then send it to the manufacturing. I will just go back a bit. So this mix between virtual reality and augmented reality can help materialize concept into experience. Concept is everything that is in the computer. Imagine the list of all the employees of a company. Here, using Kinect and Oculus Rift, we have this user that is able to navigate in the list of all the employees of the company. He can turn around and see all the colleagues and move his hand to navigate in 3D. He has an immersive experience of something that doesn't exist in the real world. Unless you put 100 people in front of me, I'm not able to navigate so easily to search for someone, search for his face, and look at the card and get some information about him, what is his biography or what are his contacts. And virtual reality and augmented reality themselves have the ability to get people more engaged in the real world. If it's just virtual reality, the user is not there, is in the reality. As we saw previously with the woman on the horse race, she was in the experience. You can have turn off the light and everyone leaves the room. She will still be in the experience, knowing that, not knowing that everything changed around her. But if we mix virtual reality, digital reality, and our reality, you will have people with more information on the reality. For example, I want to buy an apartment. If I can just pull my phone and target a flat, an apartment, I will get the price on my phone, just based on the direction of my phone. It's augmented reality. Here, I want to buy something, I want the price. If I have to look at to dive in my phone to search for something, it's not good. If I'm in front of something, I say, oh, it's à vendre. Just I get my phone, I will get the price. And here, what is the average price of the meter? Okay. You can make a better experience if you mix reality and digital information. So we saw this. The future. So more natural user interface. We talk about it a bit. Every object is connected, is smart, it's integrated everywhere. So integrated that we can say it's immersive. Objects are interactive. Even if the table is not interactive by itself, maybe there will be some sensor everywhere that make it interactive. Or even HoloLens make every surface interactive without plugging something in the table. We also have personal user interface. My phone is personal. I want to have a personalized experience on it. My watch gives me a personalized experience also. So we have, when we are doing a user interface, you have to think about common use case and also personal individual use case. So personal, and what will be the future could be just we remove ambient, personal, everything. We just say human interaction. We don't think about the device anymore. For example, here, it's a conference. I want to get his phone number. I will give him my business card, maybe. He will give me his. And I will do the same thing with 2 other people. And at the end of the day, I won't remember who is who. And I will get 3 numbers or 10 numbers, not knowing what to do with this. Or I will say, just send me a text message with your phone number or your email address, and I will call you back so you get my number. Not good. If I can just say, oh, sorry, too quick. I'm going in front of an interactive display. I'm just showing my badge. I'm recognized, my name, my work, everything. And if we shake hand, we receive the business card by vCard immediately. Plus the picture, so I get the picture of the guy that I shake hand. So I will have a better experience from the moment I saw him to the moment I shake his hand. I was not thinking about technology. I was just shaking hand. The only interface was the badge. was marvelous. It's working very well, and we didn't have time to prepare it for Ncraft, but maybe next year we'll have this kind of networking booth available. So, if I had to conclude, you have to listen to the user needs, to understand what are his needs. Don't try to put a hamburger menu because everyone is using a hamburger menu. Maybe the user, the way he will use it, he will use your application in the car and he won't be able to touch the screen. So think about voice control, for example. If you do an application for a smartwatch, maybe some stuff won't work on it. Maybe I won't do a money transfer on my watch. It's very critical, and I don't want to type my PIN code 10 times to confirm it. So maybe having this kind of feature is not okay on the watch. Same thing for the web. Try to do the right stuff at the right time. Lately, I developed a bank application for a phone, for a bank on phone, and I want to put all the website features on the phone, even the features that are not working, like sending an attachment to my advisor, bank advisor. And on my phone, I don't have a file explorer, so I can't select any file and send it through the application to my advisor. I can just pick a picture and send it to my advisor. So if I want to send something to my advisor, it will be a picture of me or my wife, but it won't be anything else. Or if it's an official document, I will have to take a picture of the document to send him something. But it won't be a PDF that I receive by email and I want to transmit him. So this feature won't be used and was a lot of money to be implemented because it won't be used. So we have to think about the user needs based on the context. If it's on the phone, on tablet, on a PC, on a Mac, maybe there will be some difference. Be pragmatic in your choices. Maybe create new paradigm of interface. Maybe the hamburger menu is okay for this interface. I don't know what I have against the hamburger menu, but it's just a sample. But maybe for this interface, you don't want a hamburger menu. Maybe you want a contextual menu that is appearing on the left, on the right, and you have to move some stuff around, use drag drop instead of a proper menu, because maybe it's better for the user at this time. So maybe we'll have to create new user interface. Everything for why? Just to give the control to the user. It's a pain for every one of us if we have to learn how to use something. It's better if it's working well from the first time. And for it to work well from the first time, you have to listen to them. So you get a better experience. And maybe they will give you better feedback and again. Thank you very much.